What's going on? My name is Lane Karwoski, and I have my fitness channel, but I wanted to also post some videos about just real life mom situations, and especially going through my second birth. 202, I think that maybe having some of this information or just someone else's experience could be helpful for you. I've got my 18-month-old here, my newborn right there. I am about 10 days postpartum, feeling good, but yeah, the second baby came very quick, as a lot of you may hear from other moms. What was funny is that I ended up giving birth on the exact same day in the cycle, so 38 weeks and 6 days. I was induced for my first birth because she was small. I had IUGR. And then my second was tracking fine. She ended up being 6 pounds, 14 ounces, and this one was 6 pounds, 4 ounces. So this time around, honestly, it was 4 a.m. I woke up because I felt like the baby was dropping. It didn't seem like contractions. It honestly just felt like the pressure down. And I knew that that would start happening towards the end, but I never got to feel that sensation with my first. So I was like, oh, this is like weird. It just feels like pressure down, like the baby physically moved down. And then I'd say an hour and a half later is when I was like, I think that's my first like contraction. So I started tracking the time difference, and it was hitting me every 7 to 12 minutes. So they were inconsistent, and because of that, I wasn't worried about going to the hospital or calling anyone quite yet, because I was like, it just seems very irregular, and I don't know if it's happening now or maybe in a couple days. Like, this could be so many possibilities. But then it started becoming more close to like every 7 to 10 minutes, and I was like, I'll just give a call. So I called triage, and this was like around 7:30 in the morning, and I was in a lot of pain in the contractions now, so it's like starting to amp up as far as like my tolerance level. And then around like on that call, I was like, I feel like they're getting more consistent, but I hang up. They say just keep an eye on it and keep us posted. And within that half hour, I started throwing up and tracking these contractions every 3 to 4 minutes, like on the nose. So at that point, I was like, my family's not in town. My husband's family's not in town. We got a babysitter right away, and I had to wait 30 minutes for her. So waiting for this babysitter, and I'm like, I don't know if I can make it, because that's how quickly things started ramping up. She comes in, I'm kind of doubled over. The car ride over was like a 23-minute horrific car ride with the bumps and everything. I was like, I feel like I'm gonna have this baby. We get into the hospital, my husband rushes me in, he goes and parks the car, and they're like, you can choose, you can either push because you're 9.5 centimeters dilated, or you can get that epidural, which like I had kind of planned to do the epidural. I did it last time and had a good experience with it. But I was also induced, and it made sense because I just didn't have energy and I didn't know how long the process would be. But yeah, so I ended up saying like, if I can get the epidural, then I'll do it, because my water still hadn't broke, but they're like, you're gonna have this baby like pretty quickly. So I get the epidural, and then within the hour, so like this time frame is really only like from when I started feeling contractions, it's like been 4 hours at most, and I get the epidural, 30 minutes goes by, and then I'm ready to push, and I have this baby. So it was crazy for sure, but it was nice that the epidural did kick in. And then we met our little girl, and then we spent the next 2.5 hours deciding a name, but that's like for a different time. Anyways, what I wanted to share specifically though about this experience is the next day, we kind of had a different experience than we did our first time in the maternity ward. We didn't have a lot of people checking in on us, and we thought like maybe because it's the second kid, but it was just less, and it was like nice in a way, because you know how exhausted you are. You just want moments with your baby, with whoever's at the hospital. But we were almost like we're not getting checked in. Like, who was like making sure everything's okay? But anyways, that next day I wanted to walk around with my husband, and they were taking her for some blood tests. So I was like, this is great. We're walking around doing some laps, and all of a sudden I feel this like insane pressure headache at the front of my forehead. And so I was like, I don't know if I should say anything. I don't really get headaches, but I went to the restroom and it was saying like, after birth, if you feel any of these symptoms, let your provider know. So I read through, and the last one said severe headache, and I was like, maybe I should just say something. Yeah, so I said, I've got a pretty bad headache. And so obviously they checked my blood pressure. Blood pressure says like everything's good. I have like honestly too low of blood pressure. Yeah, she's very passionate about this part. And so it wasn't an issue of maybe post-eclampsia. So that she was like, kind of like, I don't know what's going on. So she was texting the other doctor to see like what else it could be. And the doctor was like, can you lay her down and see if her pressure, the headache kind of goes away? So they lay me down all the way, and I immediately start feeling relief. And they're like, oh, this is a spinal headache. And what that means is when they put in the epidural, it might have just poked a little too far, poking into the fluid in my spine and causing leaking, which could make my headache, give me a severe headache. Now these things can be serious. They obviously had to tell me everything that could potentially go wrong. It only happens in 1% to 2% of epidurals given. So that obviously, that fact freaked me out. And then they say, you know, worst case scenario, you can have something like a brain bleed. So there was like, you can have a headache, you can take medication, you can get a blood patch, or, you know, you can have severe complications. So obviously hearing that right before I'm about to leave was really difficult. I wasn't happy going home. I was more like, I have this condition that I need to worry about and obviously focus on, and I'm in pain on top of, you know, a headache that's very painful. So the good news was that they were like, you would know if you were kind of at that level of needing a blood patch right away or like other severe complications, because you wouldn't be able to care for your children. So there was that. I didn't feel that bad. I felt obviously bad. I just needed rest. I felt like I needed to lay down a lot. So we get home, I get prescribed some medication, and I'm feeling much better from the medication, but I really just took it easy. But I thought it'd be informational to share because in the moment, we didn't really have time to go over like all the risks of an epidural, and I honestly forgot. But in that moment, like I'm 9.5 centimeters dilated. Everyone's asking me, what do I want to do? And I didn't really have that good of a birth plan. I honestly didn't want to think about it. I'm one of those people. I just wanted to kind of like see how things went. But that's definitely a risk. And I would make sure that you tell your doctors or whatever that anything you're nervous about, because I kept telling them I had a really horrible experience with the epidural placement the first time, which I forgot to mention. I took them 6 pokes in 45 minutes while I was contracting. Wouldn't recommend that. That was pretty awful. So I told them that, and so they were like, yep, this was perfect, this went great. So I didn't have any concerns. And then to have the headache after was like, oh, that really stinks. But I just think it's important that women start sharing more. I feel like I've been hearing a lot more of women's stories, whether it's about labor, whether it's about parenting. I don't take it as like this is a negative experience and it's going to impact mine. I just like information seeking, and I think that if I share some of my stories, that it will hopefully give you just more information to be more educated, as well as like these are experiences that I've heard about. They're real. They're things that I can make my own decisions off of. So I hope that helps. If you obviously have any questions, feel free to hit me up. But I'm going to be posting some workouts that I would already do starting now, a week and a half postpartum. And I wouldn't really call them workouts as opposed to like just body focused movements if you're feeling up for it. So I hope you have a great day. We're gonna peace out.